Emma Rodriguez pushed her dark hair away from her face as she walked through the cold metal hallways of Blackwater Research Station. Her footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. It was early morning on New Montana, and most of the other researchers were still sleeping. Emma liked these quiet hours when she could think without anyone bothering her. At 18 years old, Emma was the youngest person working at the station. She had earned her place here through hard work and natural talent. With alien creatures, while other people feared the strange beings they brought in from across the galaxy, Emma felt something different. She felt curious. She felt connected. The research station sat on the edge of a vast purple desert. New Montana was one of humanity's newer colonies, far from Earth and the safety of the inner worlds. The planet had two small suns that painted the sky in shades of orange and pink during the day. At night, three moons cast silver light across the endless sand dunes. Emma reached the main laboratory and pressed her hand against the scanner. The heavy doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, dozens of containment cells lined the walls. Each cell held a different alien species that the research teams had captured for study. Most of the creatures were small and harmless. But in the back corner, behind extra thick walls and stronger barriers, was something much more dangerous. Dr. Michael Barnes looked up from his coffee as Emma entered. He was a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes. He had been studying aliens for 20 years and believed they were all potential threats to humanity. "You're early again, Rodriguez," he said without smiling. "Don't tell me you're planning to waste more time staring at that thing in cell block 7. Emma felt her cheeks grow warm. "I'm just doing my job, Dr. Barnes." "Your job is to follow protocols," Dr. Barnes replied sharply. "Not to play games with creatures that could kill you in seconds." Emma did not answer. She walked past him toward the restricted section of the lab. Behind her, she heard Dr. Lisa Thompson laugh. Dr. Thompson was younger than Barnes, but just as cold. She thought Emma was foolish and said so whenever she got the chance. "Let the girl go, Michael," Dr. Thompson said. "Maybe it will eat her and save us the trouble of finding a replacement." Emma kept walking. She had heard worse comments than that. Ever since the creature arrived 3 weeks ago, everyone at the station had been making jokes about her interest in it. They called her stupid. They called her dangerous. They said she cared more about monsters than about her own species. The restricted section was quieter and darker than the rest of the lab. Emma's security card opened the final door, and she stepped into cell block 7. The room was large and mostly empty except for one massive containment unit in the center. The cell was made of reinforced steel and energy barriers that could stop a tank. Inside the cell was an apex hunter. The creature was unlike anything else in the galaxy. It stood 9 feet tall even when sitting down. Its body was covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Long arms ended in hands with retractable claws that could cut through metal. Its head was angular and fierce, with amber eyes that seemed to see everything. When it moved, every muscle showed power that could break bones without effort. Humanity had been fighting apex hunters for 5 years. The creatures came from Titan 7, a gas giant on the edge of human space. They traveled in packs and attacked human settlements without warning. Military reports said they were mindless killers that showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Every human in the galaxy had been taught to fear them, but as Emma looked at the creature in the cell, she saw something different. She saw intelligence. In those amber eyes, she saw pain in the way it held its left arm close to its body. Most of all, she saw loneliness. The creature noticed her approach and turned its massive head toward her. For a moment, they stared at each other through the energy barrier. Emma felt her heart beating faster, but not from fear. From excitement. "Hello," she said softly. The creature tilted its head slightly, as if it was listening. Its ears twitched, and Emma realized it was trying to understand her voice. "I know you're hurt," Emma continued. "I can see the wound on your arm. The doctors want to study you while you're unconscious, but I think that's wrong. I think you deserve better." Behind her, Emma heard footsteps. Jake Morrison entered the cell block, shaking his head in disbelief. Jake had been Emma's friend since they arrived on New Montana together 6 months ago. He was 22 years old and worked as a security officer for the research team. "Emma, what are you doing?" Jake asked. "You know that thing is dangerous? It killed 12 people when they captured it." Emma turned to face him. Jake was tall and strong, with brown hair and kind green eyes. She had once thought he might be more than a friend, but lately he only looked at her with worry and disappointment. "It was defending itself," Emma said. "How would you react if aliens captured you and put you in a cage?" Jake stepped closer to the containment cell, and the creature immediately stood up. Even sitting, it had been impressive. Standing, it was terrifying. Its claws extended with a soft clicking sound, its amber eyes focused on Jake with clear hostility. "See?" Jake said, backing away. "It wants to kill me just for being here," but Emma noticed something Jake missed. The creature's eyes kept moving between Jake and her. When it looked at Jake, there was threat and anger. When it looked at Emma, its expression was different, calmer, more curious. "It's protecting itself," Emma explained. "It sees you as a threat, but not me." "That's because you're being stupid." "Enough to talk to it like it's a pet," Jake replied. "Emma, these things have killed thousands of humans. They destroy entire colonies. They're monsters." The word monster seemed to affect the creature. It made a low sound that might have been anger or sadness. Emma stepped closer to the barrier, ignoring Jake's gasp of fear. "You're not a monster." "Are you?" she said to the creature. "You're just far from home." The creature looked directly at her. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then slowly the creature sat back down, its claws retracted. Its posture became less threatening. Jake stared in amazement. "How did you do that?" "I treated it with respect," Emma answered. "Maybe that's all it wanted." From that moment, Emma began visiting the creature every day. She brought it food and water. She talked to it about her work, her life, and her dreams. She told it about Earth and the stars, and the hope that someday different species could live together in peace. The other researchers thought she was crazy. Dr. Barnes threatened to have her transferred to another station. Dr. Thompson made jokes about Emma's pet monster during every staff meeting. Even Jake began avoiding her, saying she had changed into someone he did not recognize, but Emma did not care what they thought. She could see something in the creature's eyes that they could not see: intelligence, emotion, the possibility of friendship between species that seemed impossible to bridge. She decided to call the creature Rex, though she suspected it had its own name in whatever language its species spoke. Rex seemed to like the name, or at least he responded when she used it. 3 weeks after Rex arrived at the station, Emma made a discovery that would change everything. As she sat outside his cell reading reports about his species, Rex began making soft sounds. At first, Emma thought he was just expressing emotions, but as she listened more carefully, she realized the sounds had patterns. They repeated in specific ways. Rex was trying to communicate with her. Emma looked up from her reports to find Rex watching her intently. His amber eyes were focused on her face with unmistakable intelligence. He made the sounds again, more slowly, this time as if he was teaching her. "You're trying to talk to me," Emma whispered in amazement. Rex nodded his massive head. For the first time since arriving on New Montana, Emma felt truly excited about her work. She was not just studying an alien creature. She was beginning a conversation that might change the relationship between humans and the species they feared most, but she had no idea that this conversation would soon be the only thing standing between humanity and total destruction. Emma spent the next 2 weeks learning Rex's language. Every morning before the other researchers arrived, she sat outside his cell with a notebook and recording device. Rex would make sounds, and Emma would try to copy them. When she got them wrong, Rex would patiently repeat the sounds until she understood. The first word she learned meant friend. Rex pointed to himself, then to Emma, and made a low humming sound that lasted 3 seconds. When Emma repeated it back to him, Rex's amber eyes seemed to brighten with happiness. The second word meant hurt. Rex touched his wounded arm and made a sharp clicking sound followed by a whistle. Emma wrote down everything in her notebook, creating the first human dictionary of Apex Hunter language. But learning to communicate was only the beginning. Through their conversations, Emma discovered that everything humans believed about Rex's species was wrong. "We are not apex hunters," Rex told her one morning, using a mixture of his language and simple hand gestures. "We are stormwalkers. We walk with the storms of our world." Emma learned that stormwalkers lived in family groups called packs. Each pack had territories they protected, not because they were violent, but because their world was harsh and dangerous. Only by working together could they survive. "My pack," Rex said, touching his chest with one clawed hand. "Gone, lost in the great fight." Through careful questions, Emma pieced together Rex's story. His pack had been defending their territory from another alien species when human ships arrived. The humans had landed in the middle of the battle and started shooting at everyone. Rex's family had been killed in the confusion. He had been wounded and captured while trying to protect the youngest members of his pack. "You were not trying to hurt humans," Emma said, finally understanding. "You were trying to save your family," Rex nodded sadly. "Humans came to sacred place. Place where we honor the dead? We tried to make them leave. They brought fire from the sky." Emma felt sick to her stomach. The human military had called it a successful operation against hostile aliens. But Rex's story painted a very different picture. It had been a terrible mistake that cost innocent lives on both sides. She wanted to tell someone about her discovery, but she knew no one would believe her. Dr. Barnes had already made it clear that he thought Emma was wasting time. Dr. Thompson laughed whenever anyone mentioned Emma's conversations with the creature. Even Jake was growing more distant. He visited Emma less often and always seemed worried when he found her in cell block 7. "This isn't healthy, Emma," he told her one afternoon. "You're spending more time with that thing than with actual people." "His name is Rex," Emma replied, without looking away from her notebook. "And he's more interesting than most people I know." Jake sat down on a nearby chair and watched as Rex performed what looked like a ritual. The stormwalker moved his hands in complex patterns while making soft musical sounds. "What's he doing?" Jake asked, despite himself. "He's honoring his dead pack," Emma explained. "Stormwalkers believe that memory keeps the dead alive. Every day Rex remembers his family so they won't be forgotten." Jake watched in silence as Rex finished his ritual. When the stormwalker noticed Jake observing, he made a gesture that Emma had learned meant respect for the living. "He's acknowledging you," Emma said. In his culture, that's a sign of trust. For a moment, Jake seemed impressed. But then he shook his head and stood up. "It's still dangerous, Emma. You're getting too attached to something that could kill you." That afternoon, Dr. Barnes called Emma into his office. The room was small and cold, with walls covered in pictures of alien specimens. Barnes sat behind his desk wearing his usual frown. "Rodriguez, we need to talk," he began. "Your behavior with the apex hunter has become unacceptable." "His name is Rex," Emma said firmly, "and I'm conducting valuable research." Dr. Barnes laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Research? You're playing games with a killer. That creature has been responsible for more human deaths than any other alien species we've encountered." "Because we misunderstood them," Emma argued. "Dr. Barnes, what if I told you that stormwalkers aren't naturally aggressive? What if the attacks on human colonies were defensive responses to territorial invasions? I would say you've been listening to propaganda from a creature that's manipulating." "You," Barnes replied coldly. "These beings are intelligent, Rodriguez. That makes them more dangerous, not less." Emma tried to explain what she had learned about stormwalker culture, but Dr. Barnes refused to listen. He stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the purple desert. "Tomorrow we're beginning phase 2 of our research," he announced. "We're going to perform detailed scans of the creature's brain while it's unconscious. We need to understand how their pack coordination works so we can disrupt it in future military operations." Emma felt her heart sink. "Dr. Barnes, you can't do that. The procedures you're planning could cause permanent brain damage." "The creature is military property, Rodriguez. Its comfort is not our concern." "He's not just military property," Emma sighed, standing up from her chair. He's a living being with thoughts and feelings and a family he's mourning. Dr. Barnes turned around with anger in his cold blue eyes. That's exactly the kind of thinking that will get you killed. You're anthropomorphizing a predator, Rodriguez. You're seeing human qualities in something that views you as either prey or a threat. Emma left the office feeling frustrated and worried. She knew that Dr. Barnes's procedures would hurt Rex, possibly kill him. But she also knew that no one at the station would listen to her concerns. That evening, Emma stayed late in cell block 7. Rex seemed to sense her mood and made the soft humming sound that meant friend sad. They want to hurt you tomorrow, Emma told him. I don't know how to stop them. Rex listened carefully as Emma explained what Dr. Barnes was planning. When she finished, Rex made a new sound she had never heard before. It was low and rumbling like distant thunder. What does that mean? Emma asked. Rex pointed to himself, then made a gesture toward the cell door. Then he made the thunder sound again. Emma suddenly understood. You're not afraid of them. Rex shook his massive head. He pointed to Emma, then to himself, then made the humming sound that meant friend. But he also made another gesture, touching his heart and then reaching toward her. Pack, he said in clear English. It was the first human word Emma had heard him speak. Emma felt tears in her eyes. Rex wasn't just calling her a friend anymore. In Stormwalker culture, he was claiming her as family. Pack, Emma repeated, touching her own heart the next morning. Dr. Barnes arrived early with 2 security guards and a medical team. They wheeled several pieces of scanning equipment into cell block 7 and began setting up outside. Rex's cell, Emma tried to interfere, but the security guards held her back while Dr. Barnes activated the cell's sleeping gas system. Rex fought the gas for several minutes, his amber eyes focused on Emma with what looked like understanding. Just before he lost consciousness, Rex made the thunder sound one more time, but now Emma knew what it meant. It wasn't fear or anger. It was a promise. As the medical team prepared to begin their procedures, Emma realized that everything was about to change. Rex had chosen to trust her completely, treating her as pack, family. Now it was her turn to prove that his trust was not misplaced. She looked at the unconscious Stormwalker and made her own promise. Whatever it took, she would not let them hurt him. Pack protected pack, even if it meant standing against her own species. The war between understanding and fear was about to begin, and Emma had chosen her side. Emma paced outside the medical bay where Dr. Barnes was performing his tests on Rex. She had been waiting for 6 hours. Every few minutes, she heard the hum of scanning equipment and the beeping of monitors. Sometimes she heard Rex making sounds of pain, even through the thick walls. Jake found her there at noon, still pacing and checking her watch. Emma, you need to eat something, he said, holding out a food tray. You've been here all morning. I can't eat while they're hurting him. Emma replied without stopping her pacing. This is wrong, Jake. Rex trusted me, and I let them do this to him. Jake set the tray on a nearby table and blocked Emma's path. Look at me, he said gently. You did everything you could. Dr. Barnes outranks you. The creature Rex Rex die. Before Emma could answer, the medical bay doors opened. Dr. Barnes emerged, looking tired but satisfied. Behind him, 2 technicians wheeled Rex's unconscious form back toward cell block 7. The scans are complete, Dr. Barnes announced. We've learned fascinating things about their neural structure. The creature should wake up in a few hours. Emma hurried alongside Rex's stretcher. Even unconscious, the Stormwalker looked different. His scale seemed duller, and his breathing was shallow. Worse, there were small burns on his head where the scanning equipment had been attached. What did you do to him? Emma demanded. We mapped his brain activity, Dr. Barnes replied coldly. The procedure was necessary for understanding how their pack coordination works. A few minor burns are a small price to pay for military intelligence. Emma wanted to argue more, but the technicians were already transferring Rex back to his cell. She watched helplessly as they connected monitoring equipment to track his vital signs. 3 hours later, Rex finally woke up. Emma was sitting outside his cell, reading from her notebook of Stormwalker words. When Rex opened his amber eyes, he seemed confused and in pain. "Friend," Emma said in Rex's language, making the humming sound he had taught her. Rex tried to sit up, but fell back down with a growl of discomfort. Emma could see that the burns on his head were bothering him. She wished she could go into the cell to help him, but the security locks prevented any direct contact. "I'm sorry," Emma said, switching to English. "I tried to stop them." Rex looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he made a new gesture. He touched his heart, then pointed to Emma, then made a circular motion with both hands. Emma didn't recognize the gesture, so she pulled out her notebook. "What does that mean?" Rex repeated the gesture more slowly. "Heart, Emma, circle." Then he made the sound that meant pack and added something new. It sounded like wind blowing through trees. "Pack wind?" Emma guessed. Rex shook his head carefully, mindful of his injuries. He tried again, using simpler gestures. He pointed to himself, then to Emma, then made a motion like two things joining together. Understanding dawned on Emma's face. "Bond. You're talking about a bond between us." Rex nodded and made the wind sound again. Then he began to teach her new words. The wind sound meant spirit or soul. When combined with pack, it meant something like soul family. Over the next several days, while Rex recovered from the medical procedures, Emma learned more about Stormwalker culture than any human had ever known. Rex taught her about the bond between pack members that went deeper than just cooperation. It was a spiritual connection that allowed them to share emotions and even thoughts. "Humans have this too," Rex told her one morning, using a mixture of Stormwalker language and gestures. "Some humans. You have strong spirit voice." Emma realized he was talking about her unusual ability to connect with alien creatures. What she had always thought was just natural talent was actually something deeper. She could sense the emotions and intentions of other beings. "Is that why you trust me?" Emma asked. "Trust is choice," Rex replied, "but spirit voice makes choice easier. I feel your heart. You feel mine." As the days passed, Rex began sharing more personal things with Emma. He told her about his homeworld, where massive storms crossed the continents and stormwalkers followed them to hunt and gather resources. He described the beauty of the lightning forests where his pack had lived, and the songs they sang to honor the storm spirits. He also taught Emma practical things. Stormwalker fighting techniques that used speed and intelligence instead of just strength, survival skills for harsh environments. Ways to read the emotions and intentions of other beings through small signs and behaviors. "Why are you teaching me these things?" Emma asked one day after Rex had shown her how to move silently. "Like a hunter." "Pack teaches pack," Rex replied simply. "You are my pack now. Must be strong to survive." Emma realized that Rex was preparing her for something, though she wasn't sure what. The Stormwalker seemed to sense danger that she couldn't see yet. Their growing bond did not go unnoticed by the other researchers. Dr. Thompson made increasingly nasty comments about Emma's unhealthy obsession with the alien. Dr. Barnes watched Emma's interactions with Rex with growing suspicion. "She's compromised." Emma heard Dr. Thompson tell Dr. Barnes during a staff meeting. "The creature has manipulated her into believing its lies. We should transfer her off-world before she does something dangerous." Jake defended Emma, but even he seemed worried about how much time she spent with Rex. "I know Emma," he told the doctors. "She's not stupid or manipulated. If she says the creature is intelligent and peaceful, maybe we should listen." "The creature killed 12 soldiers," Dr. Barnes reminded everyone. "Intelligent doesn't mean harmless. If anything, it makes them more dangerous." Emma's situation became even worse when Colonel Patricia Hayes arrived for a surprise inspection. Colonel Hayes was the military commander in charge of all alien research in the sector. She was known for her harsh methods and her belief that aliens were threats to be controlled or eliminated. Emma was in cell block 7 when Colonel Hayes arrived with her security team. The colonel was a tall woman with short gray hair and cold, dark eyes. She wore a military uniform covered in medals and ribbons. "So this is the famous apex hunter," Colonel Hayes said, studying Rex through the energy barrier. And you must be Rodriguez, the researcher who thinks she can talk to it. Yes, ma'am, Emma replied carefully. I've made significant progress in understanding their culture and language. I've read Dr. Barnes's reports, the colonel said. He believes you've been manipulated by the creature, that it's feeding you false information to gain your sympathy. Emma felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. With respect, ma'am, I've documented everything. Rex has taught me their real name for their species, their social structure, their beliefs. This information could help prevent future conflicts. Colonel Hayes walked closer to the cell. Rex, who had been lying down, slowly stood up to his full 9-foot height, his amber eyes fixed on the colonel with obvious distrust. Impressive, Colonel Hayes admitted. But Dr. Barnes is right about one thing. Intelligence makes them more dangerous, not less. This creature needs to be transferred to a high-security facility where it can be properly studied. Ma'am, moving Rex now could kill him, Emma protested. He's still recovering from the medical procedures. And the progress we've made in communication could be lost if we break the trust we've built? The creature's comfort is not my concern, Colonel Hayes replied, echoing Dr. Barnes's earlier words. Military intelligence is... This transfer will happen tomorrow morning. Emma felt her world crashing down around her. She looked at Rex, who was watching the conversation with intelligent eyes. He couldn't understand all the English words, but he clearly understood the threat. That night, Emma stayed late in cell block 7. She tried to explain to Rex what was going to happen, but the Stormwalker seemed to already know. They will take me away, Rex said in his mixture of languages and gestures. Hurt me more. Try to make me tell secrets about my people. I won't let them, Emma promised, though she had no idea how she could stop it. Rex made the gesture that meant pack bond, and then added something new. He touched the wall of his cell, then pointed to the door controls. Emma's eyes widened as she understood what he was suggesting. Rex, I can't. If I release you, they'll court-martial me for treason. Pack protects pack, Rex replied simply. You choose. Your people or your family? Emma stared at the door controls. She had access codes that could open Rex's cell. She could give him the chance to escape. But doing so would mean betraying her own species and destroying her career. She looked at Rex, remembering everything he had taught her about honor, loyalty, and the bonds that held families together. Then she thought about what would happen to him in the military facility. They would torture him for information. They would break his spirit and probably kill him in the process. Emma walked to the door, controls, and placed her hand on the scanner. If we do this, she said, there's no going back. Pack is forever, Rex replied. Emma pressed the release button. The energy barriers flickered and died. The cell door slid open with a soft hiss. For the first time in months, Rex stepped out of his prison. He stood in the corridor, free but not yet safe. Together, they had crossed a line that would change both their lives forever. The storm Emma had sensed building was about to break, and she had chosen to face it standing beside her Stormwalker brother. The alarm sirens began wailing at dawn. Emma woke up in her quarters to the sound of running footsteps in the hallway and emergency announcements over the station's communication system. She had barely slept after freeing Rex the night before. They had hidden in an abandoned storage room in the lower levels of the station, waiting for morning to make their escape. Emma grabbed her clothes and rushed to the main corridor. Other researchers were running toward the command center, their faces filled with panic and confusion. Jake caught up with her as she joined the crowd. Emma, where have you been? Jake asked, breathing hard. Security has been looking for you. All night, they found the Apex Hunter's cell empty. Before Emma could answer, Colonel Hayes's voice boomed over the intercom system. All personnel report to the main briefing room immediately. This is not a drill. Emma's heart pounded as she followed the crowd toward the briefing room. She tried to act normal, but she kept thinking about Rex hiding in the storage room. If they found him, both of them would be in serious trouble. The briefing room was packed with every person on the station. Colonel Hayes stood at the front with Dr. Barnes and several military officers. Behind them, a large screen showed images from deep space telescopes. 6 hours ago, our long-range sensors detected an incoming fleet, Colonel Hayes announced. The ships belong to the Void Reapers, and they are heading directly for New Montana. Gasps and frightened whispers filled the room. Everyone in human space knew about the Void Reapers. They were a militant alien species that had been destroying human colonies along the Outer Rim for the past 2 years. No human force had ever successfully defeated them in battle. Dr. Thompson raised her hand. How many ships are we talking about, Colonel? Over 3,000 vessels, Colonel Hayes replied grimly. Their fleet will reach our system in approximately 18 hours. Emma felt sick to her stomach. 3,000 ships was more than the entire human navy. New Montana had only a small defensive force and no way to call for reinforcements in time. What are our options? Asked Dr. Barnes. We're evacuating all non-essential personnel, Colonel Hayes said. Transport ships are already on their way. However, evacuation will take at least 24 hours. We need to hold the planet for longer than their estimated arrival time. Jake stood up from his seat. Colonel, what about the missing apex hunter? If that thing is loose on the station during an emergency... Colonel Hayes's dark eyes scanned the crowd until they found Emma. Dr. Rodriguez, you were the last person to interact with the creature. Do you have any information about its escape? Emma felt everyone staring at her. Her mouth went dry, but she forced herself to speak. No, Colonel, I left cell block 7 at normal time yesterday evening. It was a lie, and Emma hated herself for it. But she couldn't betray Rex, especially not now when everything was falling. Apart, Colonel Hayes studied Emma's face for a long moment. The creature's escape is suspicious timing. Dr. Barnes believes it may have been planning this with outside help. That's impossible, Emma said quickly. Rex ... The creature has been in containment for months. How could it coordinate with an alien fleet? Rex? Colonel Hayes raised an eyebrow. You've named the creature? Emma realized her mistake, but it was too late. Several people in the crowd were looking at her with suspicion. Dr. Thompson whispered something to Dr. Barnes that made him frown. All personnel will search the station immediately, Colonel Hayes ordered. The creature must be found and secured before the Void Reapers arrive. We cannot afford to have a dangerous alien loose during combat operations. As the crowd began to break up into search teams, Emma slipped away from the main group. She had to warn Rex and figure out what to do next. But as she headed toward the lower levels, Jake caught her arm. Emma, wait, he said. I need to ask you something, and I want an honest answer. Emma looked into Jake's green eyes and saw worry and confusion. What is it? Did you free that creature? Emma wanted to lie again, but something in Jake's expression stopped her. This was her oldest friend on New Montana. If she couldn't trust him, she couldn't trust anyone. Yes, she admitted quietly. I freed him. Jake stared at her in shock. Emma, are you insane? That thing could kill everyone on this station. Rex isn't going to hurt anyone, Emma insisted. Jake, you don't understand. Everything we've been told about Stormwalkers is wrong. They're not mindless killers. They have families and culture and honor codes. Stormwalkers, Jake repeated. That's their real name, not Apex Hunters. They call themselves Stormwalkers. Emma grabbed Jake's hands. Jake, I've learned to communicate with Rex. He's intelligent and peaceful. The attacks on human colonies were defensive responses to territorial invasions. Jake pulled his hands away. Even if that's true, Emma, you've committed treason. When Colonel Hayes finds out, she have you executed. Before Emma could respond, the station shook violently. Emergency lights began flashing and the intercom crackled to life. All personnel to battle stations, Colonel Hayes announced. The Void Reaper fleet has arrived early. They are beginning planetary bombardment. Emma and Jake ran to the nearest window and looked up at the sky. Above New Montana's purple desert, dark shapes were moving against the orange sunset. Explosions bloomed in the distance as Void Reaper ships attacked the outer settlements. We need to get to the evacuation shuttles, Jake said, but Emma was thinking about Rex still hiding in the storage room. She couldn't leave him behind, and she couldn't let him be captured during the chaos. Jake, I have to do something first, she said. Emma, there's no time. Another explosion shook the station, much closer this time. Through the window, Emma could see strange aircraft descending toward the research facility. They moved in ways that human ships couldn't, phasing in and out of normal space. "Those are Void Reaper assault craft," Jake said in horror. "There. Landing ground troops?" Emma made a decision that would change everything. Instead of running toward the evacuation shuttles, she ran toward the lower levels where Rex was hidden. "Emma, come back!" Jake shouted, but she was already gone. Emma found Rex in the storage room, alert and ready for action. Somehow, he had sensed the approaching danger before the human sensors detected it. "Void Reapers," Rex said in his mixture of languages. "Deathbringers, Starkillers. You know about them?" Emma asked in surprise. Rex nodded grimly. "My people fight them before. Many times. They destroy everything they touch. No mercy for any species. Can you help us fight them?" Rex looked at Emma with his amber eyes. "Your people want to capture me. Kill me. Why should I help them?" "Because innocent people are going to die," Emma replied. "Children, families, researchers who never hurt anyone. Because that's what PAC does. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." Rex was quiet for a moment, considering her words. Then he made the gesture that meant pack bond and stood up to his full height. "Stormwalkers know Void Reaper weaknesses," he said. "Know their tactics, know how to fight them. Will you help?" "US, I help you," Rex replied. "You are my pack. Where you go, I go." Emma felt tears of relief in her eyes. But their moment was interrupted by the sound of weapons fire in the corridors above them. The Void Reapers had reached the research station. "We need to find Colonel Hayes," Emma said. "She needs to know what you can teach us about fighting them." Rex nodded and extended his claws. "Then we fight together, Pack Sister. Stormwalker and human side by side." As they left the storage room and headed toward the sound of battle, Emma realized that everything had changed. The war between humans and Stormwalkers was over. Now they faced a common enemy that threatened to destroy them all. The real test of their bond was about to begin. Emma and Rex moved through the station's corridors toward the sounds of battle. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls, and the air smelled like smoke and burned metal. Every few seconds, the building shook from explosions outside. They found their first Void Reaper in the main laboratory. The creature was unlike anything Emma had ever seen. It stood 7 feet tall and was covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Its face was hidden behind a helmet with glowing red eyes, and it carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The Void Reaper was standing over Dr. Thompson's body. Emma gasped in horror, but Rex acted without hesitation. He moved with incredible speed, crossing the room in 3 silent steps. His claws extended, and he struck the enemy from behind before it could react. The Void Reaper fell without making a sound. Rex stood over its body, breathing hard but uninjured. "They hunt alone when scouting," Rex explained in his mixture of languages. "Easier to kill when separated from pack." Emma knelt beside Dr. Thompson and checked for vital signs. The doctor was unconscious but alive. Her leg was badly burned, but she would survive if they could get her medical attention. "We need to find the others," Emma said. "The evacuation shuttles should be launching soon." Rex sniffed the air and pointed toward the corridor that led to the command center. More Deathbringers that way, many of them. They moved carefully through the station, with Rex using his enhanced senses to detect enemies before they could be seen. Emma was amazed by how quietly the 9-foot Stormwalker could move when he wanted to. His claws retracted completely, and he seemed to flow through the shadows like liquid. They found Colonel Hayes and her security team trapped in the command center by 6 Void Reapers. The enemy had surrounded the room and were using some kind of energy weapon to cut through the reinforced doors. "We have to help them," Emma whispered. Rex studied the situation carefully. "Void Reapers expect direct attack." "We use surprise?" Rex explained his plan quickly. Emma would create a distraction while Rex attacked from an unexpected direction. It was dangerous, but it was their only chance to save the people inside. Emma took a deep breath and stepped into the open corridor. "Hey!" she shouted at the Void Reapers. The 6 enemies turned toward her, raising their weapons. But before they could fire, Rex dropped from an air vent above them. He landed in the middle of their group like a falling storm, his claws extended and his amber eyes blazing with fury. The battle lasted less than 30 seconds. Rex moved like lightning, striking with precision and power that seemed impossible. His claws cut through Void Reaper armor like it was paper. When one enemy tried to shoot him, Rex dodged the energy blast and closed the distance before the creature could fire again. When the last Void Reaper fell, Rex stood in the corridor breathing heavily. His dark scales were unmarked, but Emma could see the intensity of the fight in his eyes. The command center doors opened, and Colonel Hayes emerged with her security team. She stared at Rex in amazement and suspicion. "Dr. Rodriguez," Colonel Hayes said slowly, "I believe you have some explaining to do." "Colonel, this is Rex," Emma said quickly. "He's the Stormwalker who was in containment. I freed him last night because you were going to transfer him to a military facility." "You committed treason," Colonel Hayes replied coldly. "Ma'am, Rex just saved your life," Emma pointed out. "And he knows how to fight the Void Reapers. His species has battled them before." Colonel Hayes looked at Rex, who stood calmly beside Emma despite being surrounded by armed humans. "The creature can understand English?" "Some of it," Emma replied. "And I can translate the rest." Rex made a gesture toward the dead Void Reapers and spoke in his own language. Emma listened carefully and then translated. "He says the Void Reapers are using standard scouting tactics. They send small groups too. Eliminate resistance and gather intelligence before the main assault. But they have weaknesses that Stormwalkers learn to exploit." "What kind of weaknesses?" Colonel Hayes asked. Rex spoke again and Emma translated. "Their armor is designed to stop energy weapons, but it's vulnerable to physical attacks from unexpected angles. They depend on their technology and don't adapt well when their equipment fails, and they always attack in the same patterns." Colonel Hayes considered this information while explosions continued to rock the station. Through the windows, they could see more Void Reaper ships landing in the distance. "Even if what you're saying is true," Colonel Hayes said finally, "we're still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. This information won't be enough to save the colony." Rex spoke urgently to Emma, gesturing toward the sky. Emma's eyes widened as she understood his words. "Colonel, Rex says his people might be willing to help us," Emma translated. "Stormwalkers have a tradition of allying with other species against common enemies. If we can contact his pack leaders and explain the situation." "His people are the ones we've been fighting for 5 years," Colonel Hayes interrupted. "Because of misunderstandings," Emma insisted. "Rex has told me the real story. The first conflict started when human ships attacked Stormwalker sacred sites by accident. Everything since then has been defensive responses." Jake appeared in the doorway, carrying a wounded security officer. "Colonel, the evacuation shuttles are under attack. The Void Reapers are using some kind of jamming technology that's disrupting our ship navigation systems." Colonel Hayes closed her eyes for a moment, weighing impossible choices. When she opened them again, her expression was grim but determined. "Dr. Rodriguez, can your Stormwalker friend contact his people?" Emma asked Rex, who nodded and made several gestures while speaking in his musical language. "He says Stormwalker ships are 3 days away from the system," Emma translated. "But he can send a message using the station's communication array. If his pack leaders agree to help, they can arrive in 18 hours. The same time it will take the main Void Reaper fleet to reach us." Colonel Hayes noted. Another explosion shook the building, much closer than before. Through the command center's main screen, they could see Void Reaper ground forces advancing toward the research station. "Colonel, we're running out of time," Jake said. "The outer defenses have fallen. Enemy troops will reach us in 20 minutes. Colonel Hayes looked at Rex one more time. The Stormwalker stood calmly beside Emma, showing no aggression despite being surrounded by the same humans who had imprisoned and tortured him. "Dr. Rodriguez, tell your friend that if he can contact his people and convince them to help us, I'll recommend that all charges against both of you be dropped," Colonel Hayes said. "But if this is some kind of trap," It's not a trap, Emma said firmly. Rex considers me family now. Stormwalkers protect their family above everything else. Rex seemed to understand the conversation even without translation. He placed one clawed hand on Emma's shoulder and spoke directly to Colonel Hayes in careful English. Pack protects pack, he said slowly. Human pack now, my pack too. Colonel Hayes stared at the Stormwalker for a moment. Then she nodded toward the communication station. Send your message. She ordered. Rex moved to the communication array and began working with equipment designed for human hands. Emma helped him adjust the settings while Jake and the security team watched nervously. As Rex composed his message in the musical language of the Stormwalkers. Emma realized that everything depended on what happened in the next few minutes. If Rex's people refused to help, the colony would fall. If they agreed but arrived too late, everyone would die anyway. But as she watched Rex work with calm determination, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. The Stormwalker finished his message and activated the transmission array. Somewhere in deep space, his people would receive a call for help from their lost pack member. Whether they would answer remained to be seen. Rex turned to Emma and made the gesture that meant trust in the storm. What does that mean? Colonel Hayes asked. It means we've done everything we can, Emma replied. Now we wait and fight until help arrives. Outside, the sounds of battle were getting closer. The real war was about to begin, and humanity's survival depended on a bond between species that had once been enemies. Rex extended his claws and moved toward the door. Time for fighting, he said in English. Stormwalker shows human pack how to hunt Deathbringers. Emma picked up a weapon from one of the fallen security guards and followed Rex toward the approaching battle. Behind them, Colonel Hayes gave orders to her remaining troops. The unlikely alliance between human and Stormwalker was about to face its first real test. The battle for Blackwater Research Station lasted 14 hours. Emma fought beside Rex through corridor battles, rooftop defenses, and desperate last stands in the station's lower levels. Together they saved dozens of human lives and eliminated more Void Reapers than entire military squads had managed in previous battles. Rex's knowledge of enemy tactics proved invaluable. He taught the human defenders how to disable Void Reaper equipment, how to predict their attack patterns, and how to use the station's environment against them. Emma served as translator and tactical support, using human technology to enhance Rex's natural abilities. By dawn of the second day, they had received Rex's answer from deep space. The Stormwalker fleet was coming to help. Emma translated the message for Colonel Hayes and the surviving defenders. The Stormwalker Council has agreed to alliance, Emma announced to the exhausted group gathered in the command center. They're bringing 200 ships. They'll arrive in 4 hours. 4 hours before the main Void Reaper fleet gets here, Colonel Hayes noted. It's going to be close. Jake, who had fought alongside Emma and Rex through the night, looked at the storm Walker with new respect. I owe you an apology, he told Rex. I was wrong about you and your people. Rex made a gesture that Emma had learned meant forgiveness and spoke in his musical language. He says understanding comes through shared struggle, Emma translated. He doesn't blame you for fearing what you didn't understand. Dr. Barnes, who had survived the night in the medical bay while treating wounded defenders, approached Rex cautiously. I would like to apologize as well, he said formally. My research methods were ... inappropriate. If we survive this, I hope we can start over with better communication. Rex nodded and made the gesture of respect he had once shown to Jake. Emma felt tears in her eyes as she watched former enemies beginning to understand each other. The storm Walker ships arrived exactly when promised. Emma and Rex stood on the station's observation deck, watching sleek alien vessels emerge from hyperspace. The ships were beautiful, built to look like the storm clouds of the Stormwalker homeworld. Your family, Emma said to Rex. Our family now, Rex corrected in English. Human and Stormwalker together? The space battle that followed was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Stormwalker ships moved like their namesake storms, appearing and disappearing in ways that confused the Void Reaper targeting systems. They used tactics that no human military academy had ever taught. Flowing around enemy formations like wind around mountains. Emma watched from the command center as Rex's people demonstrated why they were called stormwalkers. Their ships struck with lightning precision and disappeared before the enemy could respond. They coordinated their attacks with the fluid grace of natural phenomena, but the real surprise came when the Stormwalker fleet commander contacted the research station directly. The alien's image appeared on the main screen, and Emma gasped in recognition. "That's Rex's pack leader," she told Colonel Hayes. "He's trying to communicate with us." The Stormwalker commander spoke in the musical language of his people. "Rex," responded, and Emma listened to both sides of the conversation. "The commander's name translates to Thunderheart," Emma explained. "He's Rex's father. He's asking for permission to coordinate our defense with theirs." Colonel Hayes looked at the alien commander on the screen. Thunderheart was larger than Rex, with silver markings on his dark scales that indicated age and wisdom. His amber eyes held the same intelligence Emma had first seen in Rex. "Tell him we accept his alliance," Colonel Hayes said formally. Emma translated. And Thunderheart made a gesture of respect toward the human commander. Then he spoke again, longer this time. "He says Stormwalkers remember the first meetings with humans," Emma translated. "He regrets the misunderstandings that led to conflict. He offers formal peace between our species if we can defeat the Void Reapers together." "Accepted," Colonel Hayes replied immediately. The combined human and Stormwalker fleet proved unstoppable. Working together, they used tactics that neither species could have developed alone. Human technology provided precision and range, while Stormwalker strategy provided unpredictability and adaptability. The final battle took place in the upper atmosphere of New Montana. Emma and Rex joined the fight in a human shuttle modified with Stormwalker navigation systems. Emma piloted while Rex served as gunner, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to target enemy ships with impossible accuracy. During the climactic moment, they faced the Void Reaper command ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed every other ship in the battle. The enemy commander was directing the entire fleet from this ship, and destroying it would end the invasion. "We have to get inside," Emma told Rex. "If we can disable their coordination systems, the rest of their fleet will be vulnerable." Rex nodded and began working with the shuttle systems. Using his knowledge of Void Reaper technology, he found a way to make their ship appear as destroyed debris. They drifted toward the command ship while enemy sensors ignored them. Inside the Void Reaper vessel, Emma and Rex fought their way through corridors filled with enemies. Rex's combat skills kept them alive, while Emma's technical knowledge helped them navigate the alien ship systems. They reached the command center, just as the Void Reaper leader was ordering a retreat. The enemy commander was a massive creature. In advanced armor, directing the battle through mental links with other ships, the final fight was brief but intense. Rex used every technique he had learned from years of fighting Void Reapers. He moved like liquid lightning, striking from angles the enemy couldn't predict. Emma provided covering fire and technical support, disabling the ship's defensive systems. When the Void Reaper commander fell, the entire enemy fleet lost coordination. Stormwalker and human ships quickly overwhelmed the confused invaders. Those that could escape fled toward deep space, leaving New Montana safe. 3 months later, Emma stood in the same observation deck where she had first watched the Stormwalker fleet arrive, but now the view was very different. Human and Storm Walker ships patrolled the system together. Construction crews from both species were building a new joint research facility on the planet's surface. Emma wore the uniform of a diplomatic officer, her new rank reflecting her role as humanity's first Stormwalker specialist. Rex stood beside her wearing ceremonial armor that marked him as an ambassador from his people. "The Council has approved the full alliance," Emma told Rex as she read the latest reports. Joint colonies, shared technology, combined military forces. "Everything we hoped for." Rex made the gesture that meant pack grows stronger. Then he spoke in English, which he had been practicing with human teachers. "Stormwalkers and humans make good pack," he said carefully. "Both species learn from each other. Both species grow." Jake approached them carrying a datapad full of reports from the new diplomatic missions. He had been promoted to head of security for the joint facilities and worked closely with stormwalker protection specialists. The first group of human children are starting school with stormwalker younglings next week, Jake reported. Dr. Barnes says the cultural exchange program is exceeding all expectations. Emma smiled as she thought about human and stormwalker children learning together. It was exactly what she had hoped for when she first saw intelligence in Rex's amber eyes. Dr. Barnes himself had become one of the most enthusiastic supporters of interspecies cooperation. His new research focused on communication and cultural understanding rather than military intelligence. He often said that Emma's patient work with Rex had taught him more about proper research methods than 20 years of formal training. Colonel Hayes appeared on the observation deck, carrying official documents from Earth's government. She had been promoted to general and placed in charge of all human stormwalker joint operations. The final treaties have been signed, General Hayes announced. Both species are officially committed to permanent alliance and mutual defense. The age of conflict between humans and stormwalkers is over. Rex spoke in his own language, making musical sounds that Emma had learned to love. She translated for the others. He says that out of the storms of war came the sunshine of understanding. His people have a saying, "The strongest pack is one that chooses its members with the heart instead of the eyes." Emma looked around at the group of humans and stormwalkers working together on the observation deck. 6 months ago, these species had been enemies. Now they were family. "Rex," Emma said in the stormwalker language, "what do you see when you look at our future?" Rex considered the question carefully, then responded in English so everyone could understand. "I see pack growing across stars," he said. "I see human wisdom and stormwalker strength making galaxy safer for all peaceful beings. I see children of both species learning that differences make packs stronger, not weaker." Emma nodded, feeling the same hope she heard in Rex's words. Through the observation deck's windows, she could see human and stormwalker ships preparing for their next joint mission. They would be exploring new systems together, seeking out other species that might be willing to join their growing alliance. The girl who had once been mocked for befriending a caged predator was now helping to build bridges between civilizations. The creature that humans had called a mindless killer was now one of the galaxy's most respected ambassadors for peace. Together, they had proven that understanding could triumph over fear, that cooperation was stronger than conflict, and that family could be defined by choice rather than biology. Emma placed her hand on Rex's shoulder, and he made the gesture. That meant pack bond eternal. Around them, humans and stormwalkers worked side by side, building a future neither species could have imagined alone. The storm that had brought them together was over. The sunshine of their new alliance was just beginning. In the distance, more ships were arriving. Ships carrying diplomats from other species who had heard about the human stormwalker alliance and wanted to learn more. The pack was growing, just as Rex had predicted. Emma smiled as she watched the future unfold before them. Sometimes the most important changes began with the smallest acts of kindness. Sometimes the greatest alliances started with one person willing to see past their fears and offer friendship to someone who seemed impossible to understand. She had learned that lesson from a 9-foot predator who taught her the true meaning of family. Now she would spend the rest of her life helping others learn it too.